Hey, this is Kevin from Power Moves Development, and this is the first in a couple of videos I've been wanting to make for a long time. And I'm a perfectionist, so it's just been taking me too long to I got to do this or that, or want it to be this way. You know what? I'm just gonna throw that out the window. It's gonna be kind of stream of consciousness. What I really want to do is just share with you what I've been learning as I've been just diving into the world of AI and practically building apps with AI and applying it in my business, making automations, etc. So I've got a request here at the poll I put out to do a beginner's guide, and I'm going to be going off of my notes from time to time here to kind of cover everything I wanted to. Somebody wanted a beginner's kind of guide to understanding how you should be thinking about AI and how to leverage its benefits. So let's talk ChatGPT. Let's talk prompt engineering, the AI apps. Let's talk about the hottest ones. Let's talk about RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Let's talk about knowledge graphs, function calling, open source models, agents. We're going to cover a lot. I'm going to try and make it quick as possible. It's just going to be top level, not too nerdy, just stuff I've learned to start orientating you on what's going on in the state. If you've been needing that kind of guide or the state of AI, and kind of prep people for more of the content that I might be putting out here, that I will be putting out here. So also, today was the dev day of OpenAI, and they dropped bombs. Like, they made everything cheaper. They've added more functionality. We're going to cover a little bit of that, but I think the top most hardest hitting topics I might make a specific video about. But without further ado, let's go into it. So real quick, why am I making these videos? I've been an engineer for a long time, and I got into engineering because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be actually able to think of ideas and create them. So with these videos, I want to focus on how people can use AI practically to get practical application from them, not just to be like, hey, this is some cool nerdy thing that you can do with models right now. So let's go to the first topic. I want to let's do a baseline, like a foundational thing. What is a practical, non-technical model to understand what's going on with AI in general right now? What's been going on this last year since ChatGPT came out? So first things first, what we want to understand is this whole hype cycle kind of started from like before you even became aware of it. If you haven't really been in the world of ML, there was this paper called Attention is All You Need. And it introduced the architecture, the AI architecture of the transformer. And the transformer is just this thing that can take a bunch of words, like sentences, text, right? And understand it, like get the semantic meanings, and then generate text that is in line with the words that you input. And that seems very basic, but it was a huge breakthrough, and there's all types of math and algorithms that make sure it pays attention to the whole sentence and all the meaning of the text you input. So that actually led us to ChatGPT, because OpenAI took that concept and ran with it. So now we have things like ChatGPT, right? So that's really cool. And understanding this whole thing, the reason why I bring it up, the transformer, is that in the beginning, there was this whole thing about it really felt, even I really felt like, oh my God, are these things alive? No, but if you really understand what a transformer is, and there's all this math behind it, you can kind of temper your expectations and understand, okay, this is really good because it's just really good at predicting language. Like it's really understanding the language, but not understanding it in the way that you do as a human, more in a mathy way. So AI is not alive. We haven't reached Jarvis yet, not Ultron, and how can I hurt you? So you can relax. That's just for now, maybe next year. Despite this, it still can essentially pass the Turing test. And there was all this hype last year about testers talking to the AI and just being like, oh no, this thing's alive. It really can feel like that. But once you get to dive into it, and if you've built as many things with it as I have, it can be really dumb in the most confusing ways. And that's just because it's doing word calculations. At the end of the day, it's not reasoning. So that should, give you a little more context, but it cools the hype. But, we should understand that also this means that the power of words, we need to really appreciate that. The fact that words like can get us to this level, because still with me tempering your expectations, hey, this drop, that this unprecedented run that OpenAI has been on, I think is one of the most exciting things since maybe the internet came out, period. So it's really opening a lot of doors, and it's through language. It's really surprising. So you can still use this stuff for a lot of productivity gains. So that's kind of what I want to go into here. But first, let's talk about ChatGPT. Is the hype over with this thing? Is ChatGPT not all we expected now? I guess yes, but also no, because in the beginning, I think we thought ChatGPT, like I said, was this all-knowing sage. It could do everything. It felt like it. You got really excited. I got really excited. Oh my God, it's gonna solve everything. I can just tell it to do my job. But after we realized we couldn't just give it instructions to make me a millionaire overnight, it kind of cooled the hype. And for me, I think I just kind of went into it deeper and tried to understand. This is still very interesting for what they have been, what it can do right now. How does it do it, and how can I apply it to things? It's still very powerful. How can I apply it to things to be more productive, get more value, get more stuff done? And to be honest, ChatGPT now, even though people have kind of cooled down on its use, and a lot of people, I hear a lot of slander on ChatGPT these days. It's dumber, it's this or that. It is way more useful now than it ever was. So if you stop using ChatGPT, I think you should still be like, pay attention to it. Pay attention to OpenAI. These things are coming. They're getting better every day. The bombshells they dropped today were also, just steps in the right direction, steps showing like we're getting closer. We're getting really close to some really what do you say, Westworld type of stuff here. So the type of things that came out, we got GPT-4. That's great. Very smart model, can do a lot. Now we have GPT Turbo that was announced. So it's allegedly even smarter, but cheaper to use for anybody who's building apps on this thing. And honestly, if you build apps between GPT-3 and GPT-4, these two models that they first came out with, it is really impressive how much better GPT-4 can be at tasks. But sometimes it's worse at certain tasks. So you have to know what you're doing. lots of plugins came out. Honestly, I have not been paying attention to the whole plugins thing. I've been I've been just building my own apps, but there's a few that I use. I would recommend Web Pilot is really great, and Wolfram Alpha. Everything else, you could try stuff, etc. I haven't tried anything that was so mind blowing, but if you have recommendations, hit me up. I want to keep learning more if that's something that you really focused on. But yeah, these are extensions on top of ChatGPT that add things like math because ChatGPT is actually terrible at math. But it can use tools, and we'll dive into that tool usage a little more here. So that's really cool. The other thing, just to address that gripe of the whole GPT-3 seems dumber, it seems like this might have been confirmed because back a few weeks ago, maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, a paper was dropped that by Microsoft that might have leaked the parameter count of the GPT-3 Turbo parameters. And the parameters in a model, typically, that's kind of how you scale. You'll usually see, hey, this model is a 7B model. That's 7 billion parameters. These are parameters they use to kind of tune its behavior. And then you have ones that are multiple billions. I think the largest models, Llama, all those Llama 2s from Facebook, etc. These are like 130. We don't really know. OpenAI has never told us about how large GPT-3 is or how large GPT-4 is. They're not as open as OpenAI, the name would suggest. But it leaked that GPT-3 was actually larger, it was a larger, higher parameter model than GPT-3 Turbo. So maybe in the interest of speed and in the interest of making these models safer, they did dumb it down a bit. So it is what it is. But pro tip, you can always go to the API and there's the playground section once you kind of log in, and you can actually be able to see here I'll navigate to it now. Here it is. Everything's switched up. This is like the brand new playground as well. You can actually be able, and I think you just have to activate your developer account, which is pretty easy. Just Google it. And you can actually be able to play with a bunch of different models and set up. Wow, they've changed everything. I'm gonna have to move around here and find where you can actually set your model. But yeah, they've moved a lot of things around. But you can go back and use things like GPT-3, things like Text DaVinci, and all these older models that. Okay, so these are assistants. Here we go. There it is. So here you can see all the older models, especially if you go to completions. If you go to the completions complete section here, you can see this is old GPT-3, which apparently is better, I guess higher parameters. May make it smarter, maybe not. Sometimes parameters aren't everything. So there's that. Let's talk about prompt engineering. Now, I was skeptical. A lot of people said prompt engineering. Now, prompt engineering as a definition, let me not get ahead of myself, is basically knowing how to, being a ChatGPT whisperer, for lack of better words. How do you say the right thing to get ChatGPT to do what you want it to do? And it's really interesting because it's kind of becoming like Hogwarts, isn't it? It's like we're going to have magic spell books of prompts and stuff. And it's true. Like Honestly, sometimes when I need to get something in my app and I need like a really good summary, but I don't know the best word, like summary prompt, the way to ask, I do try to find examples of other people's prompts. It's like looking up magical spells, like what's your spell, right? So it's getting interesting. I just thought it's been something that's been going in my head. I wanted to bring it up. So prompt engineering is that, right? So somebody well, the practice is just being able to do that very well, thinking about it, and it helps to have domain knowledge, right? If you understand, like if you're in, I've been doing a cybersecurity project with GPT, and if you're in this space, you kind of know the terms, and the terms will unlock different abilities, ontological, patterns inside of GPT that will give you better responses. So this is definitely a huge way to get a lot of gain out of these tools. And it seems like this thing has, people were saying it was going to become a job. People were going to become prompt engineers, and it seems like you can go to Indeed, and people are looking for prompt engineers right now. It is. I didn't think I didn't think they would separate it from just being like a ML engineer, like a machine learning engineer. Uh, and it seems like they still want you to know how to do model training and all this stuff. So it's not just writing prompts. And the this at least this um, at least this job posting is saying that they want you to know how to do these, but they're not asking for that advanced degree. They're not asking for anything um, crazy like direct experience with. Okay, so they do say data science, etc. So well, I guess this is still glorified data AI engineer, and that's why they put the slash. But I I think I think there are probably a few roles out there. It hasn't blown up where you can just come in and be like, hey, I'll make these things per. I'm not going to write any code though. That's really interesting. And if you want to learn prompt engineering, if you want to at least get better at using ChatGPT, using prompts, I would recommend you go to something called Deep Learning AI. And this place has a bunch of free courses straight from one of the founders, one of the godfathers of AI themselves, Andrew Ng. And I actually learned a lot out of one of these specializations. I think he has one in here called prompt engineering specifically. Not sure where, but I took it. I nearly finished it, and it was very enlightening. I learned a lot of great techniques, but there's a lot of free courses on here that you can use that are not just mathy. They can actually just show you practical techniques, and most importantly, how to think about this stuff. It's a whole new model because we're not just solving problems, we're thinking about how to teach something to solve problems for us. It's like a more higher level, higher abstracted way of thinking about things now that I'm also having difficulty wrapping my head around because I'm an engineer. I'm used to just pulling up my sleeves and getting in there and getting the job done. Let's talk about plugins. Like I said, I guess we already did kind of cover plugins. So these are my notes. So I'm just riffing off of this stream of consciousness right now. RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So that is basically things like chat with your document. This came on the scene way early as well. And companies like Pinecone uh, basically are getting uh, all types of interest in dollars, investor dollars, basically because they are vector database companies. Like they provide the infrastructure to host vectors. So these things, I know I brought up a bunch of technical terms. I promised I wouldn't do that, but essentially what we're doing with this is taking your data, vectorizing it, which is basically establishing the this math lookup thing. So you can look up pieces of your data. Say if you have your company data, your company manual, your website, putting them all on a database and having a search function that is actually like ascribing numbers to the meaning of text in your database. So if I ask a question, it could vectorize my question, which is turn it into numbers essentially, match it with with the same meaning match in your database, and pull that information, the exact information you need. Now, these things have been around for a long time. This is what we use for recommendation engines. That's why YouTube and Netflix is so good at recommending you things that you like based on your behavior and all your data. But now we could use these to power things like chatbots to give them external knowledge. Because for a long time, your chatbot only, I mean, ChatGPT only knew data up until 2001. That has changed today. Now it is updated until 2021 was their first day. 2023, April, I believe, is their new cutoff. So that's amazing. And you can now, with RAG, essentially augment that even further and specialize it on your data. So think about, you can create things like onboarding apps. That's the way that we've used it. Like basically setting up, here's a bunch of information about your company, how you do things, where things are, who's who works where. And you, instead of having somebody always there, hey, where do I do this? And you could just have a chatbot assist for yourself and employees and new people. You could just ask questions and it would match that question with the right data, pull it in, and answer it based on that data. Now, it's not perfect. Sometimes, because this is math, it's very impressive, but sometimes it can link it to the wrong data, and you have to do even more advanced techniques, etc. And maybe we'll cover RAG in a deep dive. And right now, the debate is between RAG and fine tuning. Fine tuning is now taking your data and training the model further, giving it a little more fine tuning to know about you. So now you don't need to be, it could be a little more efficient, because when you fine tune, it's kind of like adding on, it's like taking what you have with ChatGPT and making your own model, right? That knows you and your data a little more. But it takes time. You have to have a lot of training data. You have to know what you're doing to set it up so you don't make it worse. and um, and a lot of times it won't be very flexible, because every time there's new data, you're going to refine tune your model. Like that's crazy, right? It takes too much time. It could take some days, weeks getting this stuff right. So I think right now RAG, if you are using RAG to add on data, chat with your documents, chat with a book, chat with your spreadsheets, your own database, I think Retrieval Augmented Generation is the best thing right now. It has the best applications for businesses right now to get the most bang for your buck. Easiest to set up, is more flexible. It's not perfect, but it's way better than probably what you have. So Let's also talk about function calling. Now, this, if you watch the keynote today, this I think was the most impressive thing because it's led to something called agents, which we'll also talk about coming up here. But they added the when I heard this, I was like, all right, this is a little scary because they added a way where these models can now call APIs. These are functions. They could call code. They could basically code. They could basically create apps now on their own and run the apps. It is impressive. And one thing I would recommend if you could set it up and just follow the guide is try something called Open Interpreter. This is something where it allows you kind of to use OpenAI on your desktop, and this thing knows about your laptop, like your own desktop. Like it honestly, I've used it to basically be my little laptop assistant. Like I'll pull it up in the terminal and I'll ask it to, hey, create this document, edit, look, create, edit photos, PDFs. It could create PDFs. It could do browser searches. It could do a report for you and then put it into a folder. It is really impressive what this is able to do. And it's all because of things like function calling. The ability for these models to be aware of an API, which is essentially how different applications can talk to each other, right? That's how things communicate. When you go to Facebook, when you go to TikTok, when you use ChatGPT, your browser is using their API to make requests and ask them for to do something. So now we're talking about very soon, very advanced agents and robots that can go out, and this is stuff that they can kind of already do. But I mean, think about like next year where they're even more autonomous. Go out there, book you a flight, call you an Uber just by talking to it and interact with all this stuff. It's really cool to think about, and it's also really scary. But it also, for the business owner, I think it brings you a little closer to having that employee who can just work 24/7. Could you imagine this thing just plugged into your social media? Anytime you get a potential a comment, potential client, it responds with a rag with your information and doesn't sleep like all day every day. This thing is making money for you. This is what I'm saying. There's so much potential here. So that's really cool. Let's go into open source models. Actually, let's talk about agents first because it kind of ties into function calling. So function calling is awesome. And like I said, it has enabled the possibility for agents. And agents are essentially a clever way to put these prompts together, run even multiple instances of these models, have them talk to each other based on what you want. Like if you give it a task, they will communicate with each other. Or it could be one agent just thinking to itself, reflecting like, okay, you want me, I had an example here. If you want me to, do a detailed report of quarter two earnings of the top three tech companies, it's going to say, all right, I should probably find out what are those top three tech companies. I should figure out it's going to come up with a plan, and then it's going to execute that plan. And then the more advanced agents, there's things like AutoGen that's coming out now. This space is the real forefront of AI right now. Autogen agents, all that stuff. It is where all the gains is being done in the space. So these things can create teams. You can set up a company, a virtual company, and these things will collaborate around your cause. You can set up a CEO, a developer, a designer, and they'll all talk, come together, and figure out what you need execute the plan, and give you an output. Now, these things are still very immature, but today, OpenAI pretty much canonized this. Like, this is where we're going. Like, they're at the forefront, and this is where we're going. Agents are going to be what we're doing from now on. They've added into the playground here, they've added a straight API that you are going to be able to use to create agents. And it's honestly kind of scary because, yes, this could lead to Skynet type stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting because a big concern with how people are using AI, myself included, is OpenAI is so dominant right now. They run the space, and everybody's building on top of what they have. And AutoGen, agents, AutoGPT, Baby GPT, all these things that came out, they were very ingenious. And it was like, people were showing some examples of cutting edge stuff. This wasn't coming from OpenAI at first. People were just building stuff. The open source community was just sharing. And it was really exciting to see. And I'm building agents, I'm trying to do stuff. And then OpenAI just waltzed in here today and they're like, yeah, you remember all that hard work you guys were doing on the platform? And yeah, we're just going to bake that all in. Yeah, everybody, you guys can make assistants now. They're basically opening an app store for basically assistants in general. And I'm sure they're going to be adding more and more developer tools for all this stuff. So they are going to really be having a monopoly. I feel like I would just love more competitors in this space because competition would be healthy for this. I think, all that hard work and ingenuity, and then you're just, OpenAI is just like, yeah, we're going to do this now, and we're taking over agents. We've made agents. Agents are our thing now. So that's pretty cool. Now, or not cool, but there's a lot of potential with this. And what they demonstrated was a very easy way that you could come in and create an agent off the bat, give it a name, give it instructions on what you want it to do, choose a model. You can have it have function calling and give it the functions. Do you want it to use your social media APIs? You can put them right there. Code interpreter, built in. Retrieval, built in. This is stuff like that was hard to do. Now it's just buttons. So here we go. We're going into the future. And finally, let's talk about open source. Open source models, the competition. Open source they're getting pretty good. Mistral came out. The names I'd pay attention to is probably Mistral open source models, and Llama. Facebook is really it is Facebook, but they are just making they've contributed a lot when you talk about AI right now. I'd say probably Google and Facebook as just pure scholarly research probably have been the forefront of AI research right now. But Mistral is another purely, I don't think they're attached to anybody right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but their models have been very impressive. I think they are the most performant ones right now. They're better than Llama 2. Llama 2 is another one that comes from the developers at Facebook, but they have made this open source and they have opened their license for commercial use. So if you want maybe some cheaper costs, generally running these things, but you have to think about your infrastructure, because what comes with open source models is you just don't get to call them with an API. You actually have to host them on your own. Like, they let you download them to your own computer. And these things take compute power, like a lot. Like you have to have beefy GPUs, graphic, just beefy systems. And what you typically people do is end up borrowing that power from cloud computing services like Amazon and Azure from Microsoft, and it can get expensive. At the end of the day, I think for if you are not like like a decently large company, it's kind of hard to justify open source models right now if you don't have like you're just not making money directly off of these models to justify the investment. You also you also can probably get away with using something like Hugging Face. What kind of architecture people have done is set up basically use some infrastructure that's serverless, so you don't have to keep this infrastructure up when it's not being used. But it depends. If you are using these in your businesses all day, people are making requests all day, yeah, these things can get expensive to host. So that's another way OpenAI kind of keeps the dominance, because it's very easy and accessible. And as much as OpenAI can be, they have the best models and they're a bit more expensive to run, but not having to host your own infrastructure is definitely a benefit. And that's how I think they're going to be still kind of the dominant player until more people, more competitors come out here and make the space a bit more equal. So that is a breakdown. I think I covered everything I wanted to here. I'll be sharing some resources on how to uh, keep keep up to date on this stuff. Obviously, I'm going to make more videos. I'm going to try and make this thing a blog because I know it ended up being pretty long-winded because I'm excited about this stuff, and it is what it is. I'll share the resources I've been using to keep in touch, maybe the best YouTube people follow, the best places to find this information, Discord service, etc. Follow up with a PDF here and just share what I know. And as usual, reach out. Let me know what you want to hear next, what you want to, what you want me to talk about, what you want me to cover. There's a lot of stuff here. This was just an overview. I will be diving more deeply into examples on how you can implement these things right now into your business in different use cases. So, yeah, thank you and goodbye.